welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to my adventures in pugging Mythic Plus. Today we are doing just a chill 13 workshop on the Paladin here. This isn't going to be a perfect run by any means, but there's a couple things that we should probably go over. I think this is actually the first workshop run that I've actually posted, so this will be just something to go over all the mechanics, make sure people understand the dungeon. And then this route is actually, we do overpull here because we don't have a priest or a rogue. We also don't have someone without invisibility potions, so you can't do any sort of skips without anything like that. So, and seeing that we don't have a balanced druid or a VDH, if you have both of those, I would definitely recommend doing the entire room in one pull and lusting the first big pull. But since we don't have that, we don't have access to like a mass silence for a long duration of time. We're just going to do half and half. We're going to do half the room, we're going to do the other half of the room, and then we're going to lust the boss, which is what I typically like to do in pugs anyway, for the most part, unless it's like a 14 or 15, something like that, just because it makes the pull much, much safer. You don't lose people off the rip, and then you don't just brick the key, everyone leaves, and then, you know, it's just a bad time. So, we will get right into this. This pull is pretty chill. The only thing that you really need to be aware of is these bomb tonks. All these striders, they can be Ursals, they can be manipulated, stunned, whatever. They don't really do a whole lot. But these bomb tonks, you cannot let this detonate go out. So as a paladin, I like to try and use Avenger Shield on cooldown just because it gives you a lot of parry. And that helps you survive a lot. But if there's any way that you can save your Avenger Shield, making sure that you rotate your kick, your Avenger Shield, your stuns, all that sort of stuff on these bombs, just to make sure that they don't get a cast off, that will help you tremendously in that pull. As you can see, if you were to lust that pull, you get about 22% count just for that entire room. So you're already a good way through the count that you need for this dungeon. So this first boss is going to be very simple. So we'll go over the mechanics one time. We'll see it maybe repeat one or two times, and then we're probably just going to fast forward a little bit to the next section of the dungeon. So as a tank, your first order of business is to not move very much. This platinum pummel puts this circle around you. Anyone else in that will probably get one shot or close to it if they don't have something running. So make sure that as a tank, you are not moving unless you absolutely have to. If you get knocked around, that's more than fine. Don't touch the edges of the room as much as possible. I'll get knocked around a little bit in this run, but at least try and keep your movement to a minimum here. And then we'll get all these ground pounds, unavoidable damage. It is what it is. Healer just has to heal through them. Make sure you don't step on the mines here. I actually stand in the maximum thrust here, and so I actually get knocked. I think I'm going to get knocked into the hammer and it's going to trigger, but it doesn't. So we'll have to walk over under the hammer manually, get that to trigger, and then it will break the platinum plating on the platinum pummeler. Sometimes you get a really good overlap where the stun from the auto hammer actually stuns him in his ground pound, so that can be really nice. I don't know if it's worth waiting for in that regard. I just like to stun him, get it off immediately, but usually the platinum pummeler will die much quicker than the no mercy, and you want to kill these guys together. So maximum thrust will go over here. We'll just get out of the way, move just a touch, and then platinum pummel is on me, making sure to move away from that death knight. We only have one melee DPS, but I want to make sure that he is not doing that. I actually trigger the auto hammer as well by walking under it immediately, or accidentally, and so I don't have it immediately for the platinum plating, but we do end up getting the stun, and it's no big deal. The other thing that I like to do is if we end up stacking, so me and the melee are stacking here, I like to just plant. A lot of people in WoW in general will default to just moving. If they see a circle on them, they'll just move, they'll panic, whatever, and a lot of times that can lead to people running with each other, sniping each other with certain mechanics, all that sort of stuff. And I like to just plant. So I see the platinum pummel on myself, I plant, let the DK move out of it, and at least he kind of knows that I'm not going to move. I'm not going to snipe him with it or anything like that. And I think that's sometimes the much safer way to go. So yeah, we'll just we'll kill this boss here. I kind of talked through the entire thing, so we'll just let it finish out. But pretty simple boss. Just dodge maximum thrust. Make sure that you're moving only as much as you really need to, and the boss should go down. We pop lust on this as well, so you can get some good cleave damage. And yeah, there's really nothing else to say. It'll suck us into the center of the room here. And if you are ranged, actually, some of these bigger, like the kind of checkered pattern on the floor, like the squares, all that sort of stuff, You can stand in the middle of those and you actually won't get knocked out, knocked around. So if you stand right in the middle, the saw blades will go down the little grooves between. But if you stand in one of the middle of these circles, you won't get knocked around. So if you've been losing a lot of uptime or getting your cast interrupted, or you're just frustrated not getting knocked into mines or something like that, definitely be sure to try that and stay in the middle of one of the squares, and you'll be safe from those mechanics usually. So we finished up the first boss. We'll go down here. I like to do double extractor here. Or the processing units. They have the same model as the extractors from Motherload. I'm missing a horse here, unfortunately, so this is going to be a little bit of a scuffed gather, but I actually end up dying on this pull because I don't commit bubble. Usually I do commit bubble on this pull. I just pop pretty much every defensive on this pull because there's nothing else that really requires that attention. So we let the gunk go off and the mega drill, which is pretty bad. You want to try and stagger these. If you can just CC the gunks and then let the mega drills go off and then let the gunks go off to put the healing absorb on everybody and then heal those off and then get the mega drills again. So you want to kind of stagger those just a bit here. But I'm going to take one puncture and I'm just going to bleed out. So this is where I should have just bubbled off the puncture, made sure I don't get hit by the last one. We get instant B-res. It is what it is. Don't lose too much time. That's just my mistake. Yeah, it is what it is. So we can get the rest of this hallway here. We don't want to get the processing unit up on top because we are going to try and skip that. If you have a rogue, you want to be skipping the next pack along with that as well. So make sure that you get specific classes for this dungeon. Warlocks are good, rogues are good, priests are good. Anything that allows you to skip in this dungeon because it's a pretty straightforward route, but you can skip a couple very, very meaningful packs if you just have the right classes or the right resources. So in pugs, I would always just try and, if you're listing this key, make sure that you get one or all of those specs just because it makes it a lot easier. So right here, we'll just CC all of these gunks as much as humanly possible. We'll probably just let one healing absorb at a time go out. The healer can just kind of heal through that. And yeah, that'll be very, very easy here. The gunks can really only be stunned. You can't like kick them or anything like that. So, but blind works, stun works, disorient works, all that sort of stuff. So we'll see this this processing unit. You can skip this guy on either side, so you can go around the back of the room or you can go in the front of the room. If you had a rogue or priest, I think a rogue only actually, you can skip this extra gunk pack because you don't need it. But for this route, we're just going to do it. It is what it is, and then we'll pull this into a couple junkyard dogs here. These dogs are a little bit dangerous, so you don't want to get all of these dogs at once, especially when you have a gunk, when you get that healing absorb, because it is a lot of healing for the healer to pump out. If you get that debuff, as you can see, these dogs are going to jump to people and put a magic debuff on them. It ticks pretty hard, so you definitely want to make sure that if you can, you have a defensive for that. As you can see, it's on the mage and the hunter. They do get dispelled there, but priests are actually really, really good in this pull too. So if you want to get a bigger pull and mass dispel or something like that and really just try and blow this up, that would be something that you could consider. But I like to just do 3 dogs, 4 dogs, call it a day. And I see the druid get 2 stacks of the burn on him, so I just use Blessing of Spell Warding. That's going to make him immune to all that magic damage, and he's just going to stay at full HP the entire time. So that is pretty good. If you don't run Blessing of Spell Warding on a Paladin, try it. You can dodge so many mechanics with it. I actually like to use it at the beginning of Cujo here, because then we don't get the first explosion of the AoE damage, and you can just mitigate a lot of damage and take a little bit of pressure off your healer. So, but all these junkyard dogs are going to go down very, very easily, and Cujo is someone that you've probably seen as a tank and been like, I don't want to learn how to do that. Luckily, you can't do the weird tank strat anymore. They removed it. You can't abuse like the long side of the box and tank the boss where you want him and kind of abuse line of sight and still get uptime on the boss. They did reduce his health by about 10%, so he's going to be significantly less tanky, and you should be all good to just do it the normal way. So we hide behind the box. As you can see, I have this little stealth debuff in the on the top right of my screen when I'm behind the box. That means you're safe. If you don't have that buff, you are not safe. So even if it looks like you're behind the boss, I think they did narrow down the hitbox a little bit more. So if you've done this boss in the past or something like that, or you haven't done it in a couple weeks or something like that, definitely make sure that you have that debuff, because that is your indicator that you are safe. So pretty easy boss to tank though. You can pop personals as a tank, pop personals for the tank debuff that goes out, and then as you can see, I have the stealth buff. Everyone else in the party also has the stealth buff, so that is very nice. And then we'll just keep going around here. Not a whole lot to explain about this fight. We get a nice AMZ. I'm going to mitigate some of that damage. And then the next box will come out. We'll get knocked away here. And then he will do his charge. You cannot be standing near the fresh box with that charge. It will explode it. DK, I think if you AMS, if you anti-magic shell, you don't actually get the leap on you, so that's why he's got that circle on him, but it's not actually doing anything. And then we stand behind the box. Druid thinks he's safe. As you can see, he's behind the box-ish, but he didn't have the debuff, so he's not safe. So that is what I kind of wanted to showcase here. So we'll get right into this. We'll just kind of skip ahead because it's really just a rinse and repeat fight, and we'll go up this conveyor belt. If you have a Warlock, you can skip this completely. Warlock just gates from that initial starting spot to right about here, so you can skip a majority of this. If you have a Priest, you can life grip people up here. If you have an Evoker, you can rescue people up here. Demon Hunters have kind of a weird skip, so there's a lot of ways to get around this little conveyor belt here, but it's really not that big a deal. So you can just do it the old-fashioned way. It's not going to go too crazy. But yeah, we'll go right up into this next room here. I like to just single target the Alarmabot here because you don't need to kill all these civilians. They can do a lot, but the hunter just decides that he wants to pull absolutely everything. So I'm like, okay, whatever, it's okay. I like to not pull these civilians, especially on a paladin, because then I guarantee that my divine toll hits both of these tinkerers here and silences them right off the rip. So I get maximum value out of that, and I don't have to use a kick or a stun or anything kind of that for the first set of Giga Wallops. So that's why I like to do that. But if he wants to kill all these civilians in pad, more power to him, I guess. Yeah, and at this pack, it really does nothing to tank. So if you're playing playing Paladin, just kind of farm your resets on your Divine Shield, or your Avenger Shield, I should say, and just cycle your Avenger Shield. You can pretty much kick both of these every single time because there's no damage on you at all. Yeah, so we get a lot of interrupts there, all good. For this second pack, I like to drop Consecration right here. So I tag the one mob, and then I single target the other. Bring it over here. This might be a mob on higher keys that you could pop Lust on. There's really not that many good Lust targets in this dungeon, so I think using it more efficiently based on your group is always best. As you can see, this pack does a ton of damage with the short outs and the dots that go on random people. Those arcing zaps hit like absolute freight trains, so this isn't a bad pull to Lust, or the next pack that we're going to do here in a second, the single target Spider Tank, just because it's a huge time sink. Most of the time in Pugs, you'll see people just Lust the third boss and then try and Lust the last boss, which is what we're going to do here. But sometimes I've liked to Lust this just because it feels good to have popped Lust, have it on cooldown, all that sort of stuff. And as you can see, lots and lots of damage going out. But nothing that we as a tank really need to worry about. We just kind of do damage, we hang out, make sure we keep ourselves safe, and as a Paladin, throw a couple words of glory on people, sack people, use Blessing of Spell Warding on people when they get those arcing zaps, and you're all good. So as you can see, this mini boss has 300 million HP. I think this is definitely worth lusting sometimes, just because you will save 30 to 45 seconds just because of how quickly you get through this. It does some good rot damage. As you can see, our healer is going to be able to heal through this pretty quickly, but might be still worth a lust because this thing goes down really quick. You can save some good time. Capacitor discharge comes out, so we'll get into the nice pizza slice here, the angle that is created by these two little, what do you want to call these, lasers, I guess. Dodge the frontals, very easy mini boss, just don't get hit by that sonic pulse, no reason to. Yeah, I don't know, if you die on this mob, I don't know, man, I don't know, it's a very easy mob, unless you're dying to the rot damage, but don't get hit by those frontals, don't get hit by the capacitor discharge. Yeah, easiest thing ever. There's a couple ways that you can do this little gauntlet here. You can go over to the right here around this first alarm detective bot here, but I like to just see what path is available. This other one will go away, and you actually can't, I mean, you can probably squeeze through there, but I like to just always play this safe. When this guy pats away, you get on this vent, and then some people like to squeeze through that, but you need to have some kind of movement speed effect going in order to make it. So I just like to always wait, This is a way that will never fail you. If you always wait for him to pat back, you will never, never, never miss that. I'm just going to go pull here because this mage is struggling hardcore with the maze, which is at this point, I think at this point in the season, and if it's on a 13, you should never struggle with that maze. I get mistakes happen, but come on now. It's a little bit late in the game. I should have definitely Avenger shielded this Tinkerer that's over on the right-hand side, but it's all good. And we'll have plenty of damage for this pull even without the mage because he is struggling quite a bit. He gets actually sent back to the beginning again, I believe. And as a mage, also, you can just blink over like half of those bots. So again, I'm not sure what we're struggling with there. But we're able to take out the pull pretty easily. There's only a couple Tinkerers here, or just one Tinkerer, so we just have to deal with that one Giga Wallet, make sure that that doesn't go off. We have a shield generator, so we can stay pretty safe, even if that does. Just dodge the squirrels that spawn on the ground, and we'll finish up this pull right as the mage gets back over to our group. With this boss, the Mechanist Garden, we're still just kind of waiting for the mage. I see that he made it and he's coming over. There is a couple safe spots that you can stand in if you are ranged. So I try and taunt the boss over here. If you stand on the stairs behind me as a range, the saw blades actually cannot hit you. So if you stand over there where I just switched my camera to, you will be pretty much safe from absolutely every mechanic. Except for the flame cannon. So when the flame cannon comes out, you'll have to move, but if you stand on that, you won't have to interrupt your cast for any saw blades. You don't have to worry about dodging those at all. The other safe spot is in that electrical fence on the far side of my screen, over by those two little lamps. So I like that we're back over here on the side. And so if we had some range that knew about the safe spot, they could be standing on the stairs here. As you can see, our mage is having to move quite a bit for that saw blade, but he would just be able to stand on the stairs and free cast, and it would be easy peasy. So either tank on one side of this room or the other. I know there's a ton of movement on this fight, and sometimes it can just be a little bit chaotic, but it can make it easier, especially if you're in a coordinated group, and you can be like, hey, here's a safe spot for at least for a little while. Go ahead and use it. I'll try and make sure that I'm at least in range. Again, once the flame cannon comes out, we will need to move around the room, still do the rotation, still dodge these saw blades because they hit like absolute freight trains. On high keys, I think they hit for about 60% of your health. So if you lose a little bit of uptime on the boss, if you're losing damage, if you lose track of your rotation, it is worth if you don't get hit by a saw blade. We get a nice little a three-piece of saw blades here that are all bouncing in about the same direction, which is very, very nice. We get to pretty much move and just stand on this wall. There's hardly any movement on this phase. This is probably the best lined up Mechanist Garden mechanics that I've ever seen. And then we also get the inconspicuous plant spawn right on top of us, so it's just a super easy cleave target. As a Paladin too, just Hands of Justice, it immediately spawns. It can do quite a bit of damage, especially if someone is taking the plant damage and then gets hit by a saw blade. They can get chunked very, very quickly if your healer's not quick enough. Someone can just tip over. So if you can CC that, use a stun, use it right away, and you will keep people safe much, much quicker. So yeah, this boss is really just dodge swirlies. That's really all it is. There's nothing more to it. As long as you dodge swirlies, this boss should go down. He might take a little bit longer if you don't have lust or something like that, but it's really that easy. I've never really struggled with this boss. I don't really understand why people struggle with this boss necessarily, but just be happy for you. You're all good. So we'll get these two spider tanks here. If you did lust the first spider tank earlier, I don't know if you'd have lust or something like that. Maybe you could do something by lust in these, because these will hit pretty hard. They do this unavoidable rot damage that the healer just has to deal with. I pinged to kill this right-hand side spider tank, but I think the mage's Touch of the Magi might actually be on the left one, so I think people just kind of ignore my ping because we're killing these very, very evenly. You want to make sure that you have as little uptime as possible where there are two of these alive. If you can nuke one of them down quickly, as you can see, it is a ton of damage to need to heal. So definitely make sure you focus one of these at a time. Yeah, I've healed this on my priest, and it's just a ridiculous amount of healing to pump out in a very short amount of time. So yeah, we're going to try and help out the healer a little bit by using sack and Blessing of Spell Warding and Lay on Hands and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we do finally take out that pull. Can be very, very scary. That is the healing check of this dungeon. Everything else in this dungeon is pretty straightforward. I mean, it feels like You just kind of have to do the damage, have the damage. And we don't have a very high overall damage in this dungeon, mostly because it's usually 5 to 6 mobs, but you know, still good to analyze how much damage people are doing. So this pull, we will just do the pull. I mean, it's really that simple. You've seen the Tinkers before, you've seen these defense bots before, so we'll make sure that we get kicks on that Giga Zap. These shield generators will come out. They'll be spawned by the defenders, I believe, and they will just, if you stand in those, you'll take significantly reduced damage from pretty much all sources. Make sure you dodge the anti-personnel squirrels. We'll get kicks on these Giga Wallops here, and then we'll get a second set of shields. So we'll try and position the mobs just outside the shield so our melee DPS can stand in the shield and still have uptime. Very, very easy. And yeah, we'll just eat the short out damage and these arcing zaps, similar to the pack that we did just before the third boss. And I know people have asked for a rotation add-on or something like that, just to see what I'm pressing. Just the general rule that I've been following is make sure you use Avenger Shield on cooldown, just because it gives you parry. Make sure that you are using Judgment and your Blessed Hammer just to generate holy power. And I usually like to spam one or the other if I have charges of one or the other, just because it will. Since I haven't macroed to my Shield of Righteousness, I want it to be pressing my Shield of Righteousness whenever is possible. Make sure you keep Shield of Righteousness uptime, and then if you're pulling and you're worried about the gather, you can use Eye of Tear or something like that just to reduce the damage that mobs are going to do to you, and then use the reactivation version of it just to get a lot of damage. If you have a good amount of leech, it will heal you for a ton, and it also shields you for a ton. So that gives you a ton more survivability. Use your cooldowns pretty liberally. I don't like to hold Divine Toll or Wings or anything like that. Just make sure that you're doing as much damage as possible, and your leech will take over as well. I have pretty much haste crit on every single piece of gear as well. So if you're looking to itemize your Paladin, just look for things with haste crit. Get as much haste crit as you possibly can. This pull, very, very similar to the other one. You can skip this pull by Mind Soothing it and then hugging the right-hand side. We don't have a Mind Soothe, obviously, here, and I kind of forget that we have to res, so I start jumping forward, and then we're in combat, so we'll res this Hunter. So yeah, as you can see, so we would soothe, and we'd go around this ring to the right-hand side over here, just hugging the wall. And that's how you would skip that if you had a priest, or you can Warlock Gate from the left-hand side of my screen up to the boss room, sort of making sure that the tank goes first so that you don't just get one tapped. This is going to be the same sort of thing. We're going to get the defender that's going to put down the shields there. So we'll have everyone stand in those shields. Short out is not going to hit for nearly as much. I'm hitting the defender here, which is probably not a good idea. You want to try and kill these bots and leave the defender up for as much of the time as you possibly can. But my damage is not too crazy or anything like that. So we definitely have more than one person hitting the defender here. As you can see, the bots are about half HP, but you want to leave the defender up just so you can make sure that you get these shield generators going. Make sure that you have it functions as a defensive for all these short outs. So as you can see, significantly less damage going out, and then you can do that. But if you don't have a defender to replenish the shield generator or spawn another one, then you are just kind of out of luck. So we'll take out this pack. Should be very, very simple. Ordinarily, at this point in the dungeon, you would be finishing out forces. This would be your last mob that you need to kill. And we're going into the last boss with 6 minutes up. We have pretty good single target, so I'm feeling pretty confident. But usually you want to have at least 5 minutes for the last boss, just because the intermission phase, there's some RP, there's a lot of like missed uptime, all that sort of stuff. So if you're going in with more than 5 minutes, you're in a good spot. So the aerial unit, R21X, just keep in mind that you want to have your camera kind of zoomed out here. Make sure that the Mega Zap is only going one direction, only hitting one person. Pulse Blast is the tank mechanic. He'll Pulse Blast you a couple times. Yeah, just kind of look where the recalibrates are heading and just get out of those. You can't be standing in the line or where they land. So we'll get the Mega Zap on the DK there. I try and sack him, but I don't actually have sack up. Look at the directional ones. I like to focus on maybe one or two of these circles in a given, what is it called? Like a given phase or given movement phase. So I guess I'll try and explain my thought process that's helped me dodge most of these. I know people have their own ways of doing it. But this one's pretty easy, so they're all going to that side of the room, so I'm just going to stand over on this side. I know that the closer I get to the edge, the less likely I am to get hit by one of those. But we'll try and find an example. I might pause the recording here real quick and just show you guys what I'm thinking. So I guess we'll pause the next one. That wasn't a great example either. But also, take off as a tank, you can just stand in that. It doesn't really do any damage, so don't worry about that too much. But my kind of logic when we're dealing with these movement pieces is so here is where we have recalibrate going on. So I'm standing in this one circle, and I see that this mob is going to the circle that is closest to me. I know every other little like mine is on that side of the room, so nothing can be going from right to left in this situation. So if I move just out of this, I know that there's nothing gonna shoot past me, and everything else is either gonna come like down in this angle or like kind of congregate over here, and I see one over there, so something's going to go across the middle. So if I stand in this little area, it doesn't interfere with any of those lines that have to be created by the rest of the room. So if you see one that's guaranteed, especially if it's close by, you really don't have to move very much because you know where all the other ones are. I don't know if that made sense or if that was even necessary to explain, but maybe I'll pause again just to maybe try and explain it again. But yeah, as you can see here, we have a couple that are really, really close by, so we just move very slightly. We know the other ones are on the other side of the room, so we move out of the existing circles because we know that those aren't going to move very far, and you don't even have to move very much, and you dodge all of them very, very easily. So, yeah, I think a lot of people really do struggle with that, but just focus on the information. You can't look around every time. You maybe don't have enough time to just look around and find and keep track of all of those. So I know all of them are behind me. I'm just like, you know, at that point, if I get hit, I get knocked a little bit into the boss, and that is okay. I'm far enough away from the boss where I'm not going to get knocked off the edge. So that was my plan there, but there we go. We see all of these going here, so I know they have to be coming from behind me or to the left of me, so I just try and I see the one to the left of me, so I know that's not going to be an issue. I see one moving left across the screen and at that angle, but we get Magneto Arm here. Make sure that you are standing on the boss for Magneto Arm. It takes like an absolute freight train. Help your healer out. Stay on the boss. It does damage based on proximity. If you touch it, you're just dead. So do this. All of the bombs are behind me, so we're going to step really, really close to boss. We know we're not going to get clipped from the side because I can't see any of them on my screen. And then we'll get Mega Zap here. We'll run along the line to make sure that the beam position doesn't actually move, but we're going to get out of anything else that we need to get out of. We're looking at the positions of the arrows. We know one of them is going to be coming across to the right-hand side, and the other ones are going to go towards the back of the room, so we know we don't have to dodge. We know one of them is coming into melee, but the current one in melee is going away, so it's just going to be replaced. And then we don't see either of the front two going towards the circle on our right-hand side there, so we know it's got to be the one from the back. Face the Mega Zap. And then we should get Magneto Arm here in a second. We'll get the second Magneto Arm, so it's going to cancel the movement on these orbs. But the orbs do get sucked into the Magneto Arm, so just be careful of that. Make sure you don't get sucked in with those. I'm just going to use Spell Warding on the healer here. And really this whole fight is just not taking multiple Mega Zaps. I think that's on me, but it's actually not. So I make sure to get out of that. Then move over to the right-hand side here. Make sure I don't get hit by the other one. And then the other Magneto Zap is gonna, or Mega Zap is gonna go on someone else. And we're just gonna kill the boss with about 2 minutes to spare. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit something in this video. I know this isn't like a crazy route or any kind of crazy strategies, but sometimes it's better to do the dungeons solid and well, you know, and you just get your key time. So thank you guys for all the support so far. I will be a little bit MIA next week, but I'll try and get back to it as soon as I can. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, comment what you guys want to see next, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.